fighting Joe Morrissey, fighting hard to become Richmond's mayor. That election November the 8th. In order to win, you have to win 5 of the 9 wards outright. There's a litany of candidates in. The big two, though, Joe Morrissey and LeVar Stoney. LeVar Stoney, former member, Secretary of the Commonwealth in Terry McAuliffe's cabinet. He's raised a lot of money. He's expected to go negative on Morrissey sometime in September, probably dump $1 million on him. But you have to win. Somebody's got to win 5 wards. If you do that by straight plurality, 5 to 9, you're mayor. If you win, nobody wins 5. Then it goes to a runoff in a month, and the runoff is decided by the popular vote. So I am predicting Morrissey's going to win this race. Joe, good to have you with us, man.
Hey, John, good to be here as well.
Okay, now we talked a little bit yesterday on the phone. You had some issues you wanted to go over. Why don't we start, if we may? Let's get right to it here and start with the vice presidential pick, Tim Kaine. What do you think?
Good pick. It's not just a safe pick, but I think it's practical. Consider the following. He's got executive-level experience as governor. He's developed a quasi expertise in foreign relations, and he's considered by most folks, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians, as a, quote, nice guy. I think it's a good pick for Clinton, and the fact that he speaks Spanish fluently can probably help Clinton carry Virginia. Is probably makes it a wise choice.
The other thing is, those of us that know Tim Kaine, I don't agree with him on a lot of things. Obviously, like trade, even though he's changed his position on it, that's duplicitous. I've argued TPP and NAFTA with him 100 times on my show. I don't agree with his positions on bringing another 100 Syrian refugees in when, we've got bridges crumbling and 20,000 people in Los Angeles that are living on the street. But he's got a wonderful family, and comment about that. I mean, you've served with him, you know him. He was former mayor of Richmond. He's got 4 wonderful children. I think attacking.
He's got this, John, and I told lots of people over the years. He's got a very pleasant demeanor. George Allen and other people who have run against him even commented similarly. So that bodes well in certainly in Virginia, but I think nationwide. So with regard to the children, great family. Let's be clear. I think the Republican president nominee Trump and Tim Kaine have got some of their best assets are their offspring.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be clear. I talk to you, and you know me. I just tell it the way I see it.
Right.
I saw those 4 Trump children. I believe it's Tiffany, Eric, Donald, and Ivanka speak. They were very confident. They were poised. They were polite. And you couldn't help. And I was remarking to Myrna when I was watching this. You couldn't help when you listen to those children say, if they're like that, their father can't be that bad.
Right.
Similarly, you just commented on Tim Kaine's great family, and you're right. So, John, I think that the children will be tremendous assets to both folks.
Look, everybody knows I'm for Trump. I'm their co-chair in the state, but I don't think Mr. Trump should be criticizing Kaine by calling him Little Timmy and things like that. I just don't think that's going to work. Those that know Tim Kaine, it just doesn't work. I think he's better off if he just sticks to the issues. And look, there's some very, very stark differences on immigration, on open borders, on refugees coming in, on the debt. They have some major, on trade, no matter what Kaine says now, they have some major disagreements. I just think Trump, when talking about Kaine, is better off sticking to the issues.
You're spot on. You and I chatted about this yesterday. The name calling during the primary, I mean, you got to get past that. The lying Ted, the small Marco. But to call Tim Kaine, a weird small dude, that it's not presidential. It's not becoming of somebody who was, running for president. But it's also, it turns off a lot of people. Here's, again, and I'm trying to not speak as a Democrat, but just as an observer. Mm-hmm. Trump will do best if he comes across as measured in his remarks, mindful that whatever he says has global implications, and realizing that you can't act like a petulant child and call people names. So the starting off by calling him a weird little dude or a political hack didn't work, and it's got to stop.
I just don't think it's effective. I mean, it was one thing in the primaries, Lion Ted was kind of funny and, low energy Jeb. It was funny. And I think there was enough candidates where that was his shtick, and a lot of what he said and the nicknames, there was truth there. I mean, there was truth. Ted Cruz, did say some things that maybe were not honest, and you go back and forth with that. But when you get a guy like Tim Kaine that is very likable, that has got a lot of good relationships with people all sides of the aisle, and has a good family, I just think you're better off sticking to the issues. I mean, I think what he should be saying is Tim Kaine is for open borders, amnesty, mass immigration, another 100,000 Syrian refugees when, we've got a million homeless people in America, or 500,000 or whatever the number is. I think you're better off sticking with the issues. Joe, I want to get to, am I right?
No, I was just going to say you're right. And here's where I think that the candidates on both parties would serve themselves. Let Pence, let Kaine go at each other. Let Trump and Hillary go at each other, and I think that's going to be best for probably the Trump campaign. And this will be the last comment I'll make about likable Kaine. Even one of his Republican senators, with whom he served, said in a Twitter feed, "I'm trying to think of a reason to hate Kaine, and I'm coming up blank." So that kind of says it all.
You're right. You just got to stick with the issues. Let's get to the Bernie Sanders thing. I mean, you know a lot of Bernie Sanders people. I'm out here in the Ground Central, 15,000 Sanders protesters behind a fence, walled off. They're very unhappy. 3 days I've talked to maybe 100, 110, 120. Not one of them is voting for Clinton. Zero. Now, that's not the delegates inside the hall with the credentials. I found almost all of those are telling me they're voting for Clinton. I'm talking about the people, the 15,000 outside. When a lot of people telling me yesterday felt that their guy sold out to the man, so to speak. I heard that a lot, even though Hillary's not a man. It was like he sold out to, quote unquote, the man. What do you think is going to happen with the Sanders backers now in Virginia? Not the ones that are part of the party, ones that are on the outside.
Okay, let's just analyze it, and let's do it without partisan rancor. Here's my assessment. There is a lot of disconnect right now because of the WikiLeaks disclosed the 20,000 Democratic National Committee emails showing that there was favoritism by the Democratic Party towards Clinton, which is exactly what Bernie Sanders said was happening. He says it's rigged against her. Now there's proof of that. Now they feel disenfranchised, and that feeling is powerful. Now let's examine what goes next. Sanders implores his folks to not protest, don't turn your backs, don't go out of the arena, and they didn't, but they're still very angry. So what are they going to do? You just said a moment ago that you spoke to many people that said, I'm not voting for Clinton.
Yes.
That gives them two choices. One, stay home. Two, vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. Now, here's what it's going to take to vote for Trump. Bernie Sanders folk are very progressive Democrats, left of center. Agreed?
Yes.
What is it going to take to make them make a seismic shift to the right and vote for Trump? That's what I don't know yet. I will say this. There was one poll early on that said, among Sanders supporters, if you didn't vote for Sanders, who would be your next choice? And interestingly, a lot of people said Trump. Mm-hmm. So if a lot of Trump supporters are not only, a lot of Sanders supporters are not only progressive Democrats, but also folks that are clamoring for a real change, then you may get some of those folks shift to Trump. Otherwise, the only way Trump benefits is if they stay home, which is also like getting another vote. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think you're spot on. Like I was saying this yesterday. I had in my notepad, I got to 35 Bernie protesters inside the fence. I actually went in there and I got to 35 of them, and then I had to go. And so of the 35, 11 said they were voting for Trump. One said they would write Bernie's name in. And the other 24 said they were voting for the Green candidate. I can't think of her name. Ann Klein or the Green candidate.
Now you're on to something. Now, remember, won't be the first time that in third-party candidacy thwarted a major party. Just go back to the Bush-Gore race. Do you remember
2000.
who was running as a third-party candidate?
Nader.
Yeah, the current governor of California, Jerry
Brown. Yep.
Remember? And he took a lot of people away, and many people said that tilted Florida towards Bush. So it's the same thing, though. If a Bernie Sanders person either stays home or votes for the third party candidate, then that's a Trump victory. You follow me?
Yes. Yeah, because they're normally.
That's an interesting poll that you said.
I mean, it's unscientific. It's just the first 35 people that I just went to on the line. So I mean, it has no bearing on anything. But
right.
A third of them said Trump. That was shocking. But no, I mean, of 35, the other shocker is nobody for Clinton. I mean, not one. I expected a handful.
Yeah.
Nothing. Zero. She got shut out.
John. The frustration among Bernie Sanders folks is palpable. I think Texas Delegate Barbara Patante, if I'm pronouncing it correctly,
yes,
expressed that frustration very well when she said, and I'm quoting her almost to the word, "We know Bernie would be a much stronger candidate against Trump." And so that's their frustration, okay? And then when you add on top of that, they feel that the system is rigged. And, I feel that pain, and you know why? It happened to me.
Yeah.
The Democrats locking me out because they didn't, and you can't do that. You've got to have a level playing field in order to get on the ballot. And then once you're on the ballot, do whatever you want. Spend all the millions of negative ads, blah, 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 but make it fair to get on the ballot. And Trump and Bernie's folks feel that didn't happen. So believe me, that frustration is palpable. I think Bernie acted with class when he told his folks not to walk out, but they're not having it, as Myrna would say about her little baby.
Well, you know what? Like you said, this movement, a lot of people think it was about, free stuff. It really wasn't. The core of this movement for Bernie Sanders was about giving the voiceless a voice in the system and protecting their ability to have a say and get involved. That's really what I thought the Sanders revolution really was about, along with breaking up the banks and the whole system economically and politically is corrupt and rigged. And so part of that is the sanctity of the ballot. I mean, you got to be able to get on the ballot, like you said. You know firsthand what it is to get screwed. The Democratic Party screwed you basically in your Senate race with throwing your signatures out. Joe, running for mayor of Richmond, this is a city that's had some real issues. We spent a lot of the campaign talking about the politics of it. LeVar Stoney's got all the money. Certain people are from other areas. They're like regional type candidates. Joe, in your mind, if you live in Richmond, you're running for mayor, what are the three big issues here?
I'd say starting number one, the fiscal soundness of the city of Richmond. Okay? Can you hear me, John?
Yes.
The fiscal soundness of the city of Richmond. That's number one. As you know, every municipality has to have a CAFA report in. Richmond hasn't gotten its report in timely, and it's over 14 months late. You need, number two, second issue is schools, and number three, I would say, are infrastructure in the city of Richmond. You need a businessman or somebody who will bring a business-like approach to running the city of Richmond. And there are some good candidates out there. It's not just Joe Morrissey. I mean, let's be clear. Jack Berry, Bruce Tyler, Jonathan Belial, they've had some business experience. My opponent that you said, my main opponent, LeVar Stoney, has zero business experience. he hasn't done anything. He's been a political operative, and here's what I see is going on. He is Secretary of the Commonwealth. He has given away all of those patronage positions, Deputy Secretary of Transportation in the McAuliffe administration. When those people begin to transition out in 2017, where do they go? Do they move over to the Richmond City Department of Public Works? You've got to bring in people that have the skill set for the job. And the problems that we've had in Richmond are that too many people are getting their jobs because of whom they know. Are you in the mayor's church? Does that give you the entree into the... And that's the problem. And I'm going to run the city like a business. I'm going to take care of our first responders. I'm going to take care of the potholes. I'm going to clean the alleys twice a year. I'm going to remove snow and leaves timely. I'm going to fix the schools and then move on to other things.
Let me ask you this, Joe. You mentioned education and schools. Well, isn't that really the job of the Richmond School Board? What impact does the mayor have?
Huge. Mayor has a huge impact. We've got 45 schools in Richmond. Only 17 of them are fully accredited. So the mayor is going to be the person who decides how much money we're going to put into schools. Doug Wilder, 12 years ago, in his City of the Future plan, envisioned putting $300 million into schools. You want to know something, John? It never happened because the city of Richmond, under the current mayor, reprioritized what they're going to do. Now, tell me if this makes sense. And I'm speaking to Republicans out there, independents, Democrats. Instead of, right now they're talking about they don't have enough money to keep Armstrong High School open and 3 elementary schools, but they did have $15 million for a bike race that brought $0 into the city. They invested $12 million into a Redskin stadium. LeVar Stoney and the governor supported $33 million going into a brewery. What does that have to do with running the government? Those are private sector functions. And that's where we've frizzled away, $50 to $100 million on non-municipal needs, and that's not going to happen with me because I know how to run a business.
So when you say, like bike paths and bike races instead of schools, that's kind of the nonsense that goes on in government that drives everybody bananas. So you're going to put more money in the schools. Now you mentioned infrastructure. Tell us about that.
Okay. Right now we have in almost every one of our major thoroughfares potholes. The alleys haven't been cleared in 2 years. There was no line item in the budget for snow removal or for leaf removal. That's why leaves remained over in the 5th Ward and the 4th, parts of the 3rd, 1st, for a year. It just wasn't removed. Now consider the following, John. Instead of putting $12 to $15 million into the Redskin Stadium or another $15 million into the bike race, that's $30 million right there. What if we repaired our potholes? What if we put new gravel in the alley? What if we cleared the trees in the alley? Why don't we put a budget in there? We cut the grass at our schools and the median strips along Monument Avenue. In other words, run the city like a business.
Right.
And let me be fair. There are other people out there that have business backgrounds. Jack Berry's got a business background. But I've actually run $3 million businesses, all successful. I have signed the front of checks. Okay, I know what it means to meet a payroll, to meet a budget, and to do it or to bring in a business under budget. My friend LeVar, he's a nice young man, but he has zero business or life experiences. He drove the mayor around, drove the governor around for 4 years, and then he became Secretary of the Commonwealth, and then he dispensed patronage positions. He's never run a business. He's never taught. He's never run an insurance agency. He's never run an architectural firm. He hasn't done anything except be a political operative. And that's not what the city of Richmond needs.
Well, not right now. You got to have some experience there, and you got to fix some of the strife that's going on. Joe, every time I mention your name, the core establishment Democrats go nuts. Why don't they like you?
You just hit the nail on the head. The core established Democrats. Here's why. I've never just towed the party line. You and I have had a very pleasant 20-minute discourse, and I've given you an independent analysis. I've told you I've shared insights from both sides, and I am not one of these, Democrats that just drink from the Kool-Aid and just spouts the party line. I'm not like that, and so I think that's probably one of the main problems. And the way they look at it is this: the people, the higher ups, like the governor, he's got behind LeVar Stoney. His approach to governance is throw $1 million or throw money at a race and then throw lots of negative ads and then hope that sticks. Now, let's be clear. He outspent Cuccinelli by $16 million and won by 2 points. So that model works for him, and that's what they want to do here. But let's analyze it. Who's got the experience to run the city of Richmond? LeVar Stoney did a good job down at James Madison on student council. And then he went into political positions. But what has he done?
He did a good job on student. He did it. He was a good member of student council.
He did. I mean, he's talking about rights restoration now. Come on. I have been in favor of rights restoration for the last 10 years, and my office at the General Assembly was ground central. He was, deciding who gets tickets to the, how to allot a ticket lottery at James Madison, or, where is the experience? It's utterly lacking. And we now know with the fiscal problems that Richmond has right now, you need to have somebody that comes in there and has a business approach. I've run 2 businesses in addition to a law practice that has been wildly successful. I have a company that provides residential services for intellectually challenged, special needs adults.
Right.
And a day support program. We never laid anybody off during the recession. I ran it like a business. That's what I'm going to do for Richmond. I'm going to run it like a business. Let's talk about another policy, schools. We've got right now not only our schools are crumbling. The average age is 65 years old. They've got more schools have mold and mildew that don't. We have crumbling AC systems. We've got leaky roofs. Carver has ceiling tiles that are falling. What's LeVar's response? Oh, instead of putting that money into the schools, the governor and LeVar supported giving $33 million to a brewery. Tell me, John, what businesses is it of the city to give city tax dollars to a private for-profit enterprise? That's the problem. No experience.
Crony capitalism at its apex, right? When you're giving city money to a brewery, and that's what crony capitalism is. That's why many people feel the system is rigged and the economic system is corrupt in such a way that it benefits the few. Certainly benefited whatever company came in and got that a tax break. But you got me with the fact that when you said that he did a good job on James Madison's student council. All right, that's pretty funny, Joe. You got me laughing on that. We're out of time. I want to thank Joe Morrissey. He's running for mayor of Richmond, and his chief opponent, LeVar Stoney, he says, was a very productive member of the James Madison City Council. Oh, Joe, you got me on that one. I got to take off for more information.
Best of luck in the final day down there. You guys have a good time. I look forward to chatting with you later.
For more information, go to electjoemorrissey.com. Electjoemorrissey.com. And LeVar Stoney did a good job. He did compliment him. He did a good job on James Madison City Council.
Love him. I told him last night that I love him.
I'll be right back.